This too shall pass. Tom Hanks. This is one of my favorite quotes. I'm Melissa Franks, your host on the Opt-in podcast, where we go from surviving to thriving. And today we are talking about why I appreciate Tom Hanks so much for providing this wisdom into the universe. You see, whenever he's asked for the best advice that he ever received in his career, he always goes back to the height of his success when one of his mentors said to him, "This too shall pass." And what he came to realize as he went through the progression of his career, that it was true for all circumstances, the amazingly good and the amazingly bad. In each of those occurrences, this too shall pass. And why is this top of mind for me today? There's a few reasons. Reason number one is I've said this to myself out loud probably 100 times in the last 30 days. And reason number two is I have spoken with nearly 20 brand new to me entrepreneurs this month, and every single one I spoke to came forward with a picture and an experience of overwhelming chaos in their business. And the answer to all of it is Tom Hanks's most prolific wisdom, in my opinion. So today we're going to talk about my story, kind of what's been going on, and get under the covers of that a little bit so that it can help you see how to apply this sage advice from Tom in your day-to-day. So when we think about my story, which I've shared with all of you often, and if you're brand new to this, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version, and you can go back and you can kind of listen to those earlier podcasts where I talk about it. But one of the reasons that I want to talk about this today is because it's a little bit ironic what the timing is. Almost to the day when this podcast episode airs, like one day off, literally. It will be 2 years from when I was notified that the startup that I was working for had failed. And not only did it fail, I wasn't getting my severance package, and I was kind of out of my ass. And I had mounting legal bills and like all of this like stuff coming. And I thought I was at rock bottom. And I kind of had that reaction that everybody does in a stressful moment. Fight, flight, freeze, right? And I chose fight. That was what happened. I always choose fight. I am 5'2". I have no business choosing fight 99% of the times, but I always do. And I came out swinging. Some call the rest of the story a phoenix rising from the ashes. It's probably more than that. It's probably more that than being a prize fighter, a boxing winner. But either here nor there. 2 years ago, I didn't have a business. I hadn't even started it yet. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a severance package that I thought I was being smart in negotiating, and I had no plan. And I remember in the midst of panic thinking, this is only temporary. And that's really what got me to move. That's what got me to take the next right step. That's what got me to start the machine and the momentum going again. And it's what propelled the next chapter of the story. And that the business started in November. And I got a client in November. And then I, was a baby elephant learning how to walk for a really, really long time. And then a year ago, almost to the day, again, there is something about the middle of October, can I just say? Paid ads started working for me, and I was able to secure a contract with the first client from a paid ad. And then that momentum started to move slowly and build and build and build. And then 30 days ago, 30 days, I sat in that space where these entrepreneurs that I was speaking with were sitting, where I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed because demand was rapidly exceeding supply. It's the good kind of overwhelm. When 2 years prior, I had been overwhelmed by the fact I had no plan and that I could literally see the dollars running out of my bank account. And then here we are 2 years later with almost the inverse. Opportunity is so abundant. Everything is breaking. And it's a little bit of a gift that I'm able to experience this alongside the businesses that we help, because I'm able to very quickly see the lessons and see the path forward, because I'm actually guiding businesses to get themselves out of this thing. So when I get into that situation, I'm like, oh, well, what would I tell another business owner to do? What would I advise my clients? How would I work through this problem with another COO on the team? And I'm able to take myself out of the equation and then put my business back in and figure out what to do next. So here's what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about when there's chaos, when there is overwhelm, when you're uncertain about what to do. The first thing that I want you to do, and I'm going to bookend it, and this is going to be the last thing that I want you to do, is I want you to say out loud to yourself in the mirror, this too shall pass. What I am currently experiencing is temporary. It is not a permanent state of being. It is not our new normal. It is just the present day circumstance. This too shall pass. It helps you put it into perspective. That one phrase helps you understand that there is a finite amount of time that you're going to be experiencing the pain, the discomfort, the angst, struggle with your mindset, whatever it might be. There's a finite amount of time for where you're going to sit in that moment before you move on to something else. For some, it means enjoying the moment in the ride. And for others, it's looking for a way to get out as fast as you can. Regardless, it's temporary. And so once you're able to really sit up and look yourself in the eye, because we're still standing in front of the mirror, and say, this too shall pass, you recognize and acknowledge that there is a way forward. There is. You just have to find it. And so here's what we do. Step number 1 is I want you to write down all of the things that are overwhelming. Write down all of the things that are broken. Write down all of the things where you don't have a clue or an understanding about what to do. Write down the thing that keeps you up at night at 3 o'clock in the morning. Write down the thing that you're ignoring. Write a list, and this list should be long. If you are really in it, if you are in chaos and overwhelm and uncertainty, the amount of problems that you can see with the naked eye should be unending. You know what I mean. You can catastrophize like nobody's business. You should have a PhD. You should have an advanced degree in your ability to identify everything that's broken and problematic in this current scenario. So write it all down. Get it out. Take as long as you need to. It's okay if you repeat yourself. Just get it out. What does this do? Well, the first thing is it's cathartic. It simply gets the mental load that you are carrying this list around to be relieved, because now you have another representation of it. So that's the first thing. It's just cathartic. The second thing is that the act of writing it down actually releases tension in your body. It's almost like when you talk to somebody close to you and you just vent for a minute and you automatically feel better because you're just able to get it out. You're not looking for resolution. Things aren't better than they were before you started, but like you've just been able to exercise that bad energy from your body. That's what this does. It's completely cathartic. So that's number 1. You've got the list. Okay? And I want you to set it to the side. After you write it down, I actually want you to decouple from it. I want you to let it sit there for a beat. Often we talk to our business owners and ask them to turn that list over to us. So literally it exchanges hands. Like that, you've put it out into the world. We can see what we can see. Let us take it from you and carry the burden for a while. I'm not advising you to put that burden on your partner. I'm not advising you to put that burden on the rest of your team. So what I am advising you to do is just set it to the side. Set it to the side. And if it helps you, the other thing that you can do is you can literally write at the top of it to revisit 14 days from now. So if you complete that entire exercise on the 10th of the month, you're going to revisit that list in 14 days on the 24th. If that gives you anxiety, then make it 7. But give it a week, give it 2 weeks. Just let it go. You've written it down, throw it in a drawer, leave it alone, set a reminder on your calendar, and just do what you can for the next couple of weeks. The action of delaying doing anything with the list is intentional. It's strategic. Do you know what that is? It's to decouple your emotions from what you wrote down. When you sit down and write the list, you are going to be wound up. You are going to have an emotional hurricane around you. Some of the things that you write down are going to be incredibly exciting to you because you foresee them being opportunities. Others are going to be incredibly frustrating. Others are going to be very anxiety inducing. Maybe some have a trauma response. You are going to be all over the place. You are going to be like a 2-year-old that didn't get his nap and wants a cookie and loses his mind and lays down on the floor. That's what's going to happen to you as you go through the process of writing this down. You are not in the right frame of mind to make any prioritization or decisions, so don't. Don't expect that of yourself because you're not capable. So this step concludes when you get it in a list and then you delay doing anything with it. You make a commitment to yourself on when you're going to pick it back up, and you don't do it until then. And then a week, 2 weeks later, you pick the list back up. You've had some time and space. You are able to look at it objectively. And the next thing that I want you to do is go through that list and cross off everything that doesn't actually exist. Because when you get into a heightened state of emotion, when you are working from a place of overwhelm and chaos, everything will appear as something that needs to be addressed, as something you have to get off your chest. And the reality is, it's just not true. The reality is that most of what you wrote down is just distractionary maneuvers from the real stuff. The stuff you know you have to do that you don't want to do. And so when you revisit that list in this step, you're going to go back through and you're going to cull the herd. You are going to look and see, is this actually a problem? Really? Or did I make that up? Do I have any evidence that that is the case? Do I have any evidence that I should be concerned about that? And so you're going to go through that list. And then what you're going to do is you are going to take that list. This is the next step. So once you've culled the list, once you've gone through and you've figured out what do I need to care about and what do I not need to care about, then you are going to share it with somebody. Now, if you have a team, this is great. Go find your second in command. Go find the person that you normally go to problem solve and work through things in the business and share the list with them and say, hey, I recognize that we need to make some changes. And I've kind of created a list of like every possible thing that we could do. And I want you to take a look at this and let me know if you think there's anything that I should take off this list. And let them cull the herd. Let them identify. They'll identify other stuff that's distractionary and not necessary or doesn't make sense or is misaligned to the mission or is you trying to start another business without telling anybody. Yep, I see you. One business at a time, people. But give that to the person that you trust and have them shorten the list. And then after they do that, then I actually want you to talk to them about what remains and say, so if I did this right and you did this right, here's the actual list. Here's what remains. And generally speaking, when this is completed intentionally, with enough time and space between the emotional deep dive and the disassociated analysis, I don't have another way to describe that, you should cut the list in half, at least, if not remove 2/3 of it. It should get significantly shorter. And what you are left with is a pretty good approximation of the real story. It's a pretty good approximation of the actual pain points in the business. It details out real things that are broken or not optimized or about to break. It identifies warning signs and signals in your business model right now that something needs to change before something catastrophic happens. It potentially identifies opportunities for growth that are scary. And you then take that list and you look at it as if a surgeon was looking at it. So often, surgical teams will do a full workup of you when you go in to do a surgery. They will do all sorts of things. For women, they might take a pregnancy test. They're going to take your blood and they're going to check your levels. They're going to check how your other organs are functioning. Depending on the type of surgery they have, they're going to run all sorts of diagnostics for you. And they are going to determine how much you can handle. Have you ever heard of somebody that had a heart attack, for example, and they need to have surgery and they're not having it because there are other things that need to be resolved and fixed before they can have the heart surgery? This is what you're doing with this list. You're going through and you're looking at it and you're saying, this is the thing I actually need to do, but I can't do it yet because these other three things come before. And so what I want you to do is I want you to take that list and actually map out the dependencies. Which of these things are connected? Which of these things are related? Which of these things, if I change this, I have to change that? Like, how does the whole thing work together? And then once you understand how everything is related, this is when you really get to the place where you start to prioritize. And what you want to ask yourself is the catastrophic sort of questions. If I don't address this, what happens? If I don't address this, what's the risk? If I don't address this, what am I left with? And any item that the resultant action of doing nothing is that your business is no longer viable goes to the top of the list. That's just how that works. Anything where you are saying the business is at risk, you have to push it to the top. It's just a requirement, okay? And then as you go down that list, what you're really doing is you're creating priority and you're saying, at first, the first course of business is to make sure that we don't go out of business. And then we want to make sure that there's a good customer experience. You go down the list and prioritize fundamentally what is the most important things to you until you get to the bottom. And then once you have that list prioritized, then I want you to apply time to it. So here's the secret that nobody tells you about. There's going to be things broken all over the place in your business. I'm going to give you an example of this with my business in just a second. There are things that could be broken all over the place. However, when you add the time element, you may not need to fix the broken thing right now or ever. So you have to ask yourself, is it good enough to get by until fill in the blank? Is it good enough until we get to 100 clients? Is it good enough until we have 50 employees? Is it good enough for the next 3 months and then we really need to address it? Figure out if it's really, really broken and has to be dealt with right now, or if there's something else that will really lead to the break point and you buys yourself some time. Because the reality is you can only change one thing at a time in your business. That's it. One thing. And Alex Hormozi has done a significant amount of research and evaluation and testing and all these things. So I am not going to do that just to prove him right. I'm just going to take his word for it. And what he says is that when you implement change, you can expect a 20% decrease in results until that change is put into place. And so his logic and theory is if the change that you're about to make isn't going to improve your business by 20%, then don't do it. Because the effort to take you and your team to get that thing implemented is going to, at a minimum, shrink your business by 20% until you get back to homeostasis. So if you're not going to end up net neutral at the end, and I would argue if you're going to end up net neutral at the end, then why are you doing it anyway? You really should be looking for a plus 30, plus 40 if you're going to expend 20%, right? To get it done. Then don't do it. So you have to look at the trade-off. You have to look at what's it going to take? Am I going to implement some changes to my sales process, which means I'm going to basically make my sales team less productive? for 6 months. And if my sales team is less productive for 6 months, then that means that we're going to have 20% less sales for 6 months. And if I don't think that this change I'm going to make is going to double or triple my sales after it's implemented, I need to think long and hard about whether or not it's worth it to decrease my sales by 20% for 6 months. See what I'm saying? And so you have to look at the trade-offs, because the reality is that when you fix the broken thing, it's going to have some sort of ramification short term in the business. The same is true for hiring employees. Often, we get super excited about the act of hiring. What we don't consider is how much effort it takes to find the candidate, screening applications, job interviews, second interviews, reference checks, background checks, and then you hire them. You have to onboard them and train them and then monitor them and make sure they're doing the things. And then if they don't work out, you have to do it all over again. It is a massive amount of time, energy, effort, and expense to hire an employee. And I am not talking salary costs. I'm talking operating costs. And so while you may get more productivity, efficiency gains, and growth from having that role added, you need to be comfortable and okay with the amount of diversionary capacity that you are going to need to allocate in order to hire that person. So you have to look at the trade-off. You have to look at if this thing is a priority and it must be tackled and it must be right now because we can't wait 3, 6, 9, or 12 months. Am I okay with the trade-off? Every transactional activity in your business has a cost. Every single one. Every time you make a decision to do something or not do something, there is a cost associated with it, aka trade-off, and you have to make sure that you are okay with it. Okay, so now you have gone through the list, you've had the list checked, you've shrunk the list down, you've looked at timeline, you've looked at priority, you've looked at dependencies, you've looked at trade-offs, and now you know. This is the one thing I'm going to do. And then you know what you do? You take all the rest of that stuff and you literally put it in the drawer and you work on the one thing and you let the rest go. Because the reality of business is it's always going to be chaotic. It's always going to be evolving. It's always going to be surprising. There is no way to eliminate chaos. That is an absolute fallacy. If you get nothing else from this podcast today, it is a fallacy that business is boring. It is a fallacy that business lacks chaos. It is a fallacy that business is structured and routine and methodical and predictable. It's just not true. And this is coming from an operator. This is coming from an integrator. This is coming from somebody who loves stability and predictability. But the reality is that you can't predict what consumers are going to do. You can't predict what employees are going to do. You can't predict what the economy is going to do. You can't predict if one day tariffs are fine and the next day they're 80%. You just can't predict things. And for that reason and that reason alone, you are going to feel periods and moments of chaos, uncertainty, overwhelm. And that's okay, because that is a normal course of action. Okay, so now I promised you I was going to talk a little bit about how I have navigated through this. So I'm going to share that with you right now. As I shared some of my story at the very, very beginning, we got to September of this year and I had something similar happen to me back in April. So back in April, I was getting demand from paid ads. It was going great. My plate became full. And that was the only goal ever, was just to have a full plate. I was going to single shingle it. Life was going to be good. We were going to keep it moving. And then I realized there was more demand. So like when my plate filled up, the demand pipeline didn't know that. It just kept sending demand my way. And I realized that I actually have a mission bigger than just surviving personally. And I had to reset the narrative for myself. I got overwhelmed with the amount of demand that was in place. And what did I need to do? I needed to expand the team. And the team expanded by 4 people. So it went from me to me plus 4 so that we could fulfill customer demand. And that was great. We were able to fulfill the demand all the way through. We onboarded new clients in September. Things were going well. Everybody's plates were full. I was able to help people replace their income completely. Like, it was amazing. And then the floodgates opened. And I would like to tell you that I can pinpoint exactly what happened. And the reality is that I was messing around in Google and I increased my ad spend. I'm not even sure when I did it. And I literally woke up and had 4 sales calls booked. And then the next day, like 4 more appeared, and they were just flooding in. It was raining sales calls. And I became panicked. First, I was excited. I was like, heck yeah. And then all of a sudden I said, oh no, there's no spare capacity on the team. Oh no, I'm the only one working in the business. Everybody else is supporting clients. Oh no, if these are legit and real and people show up, I have to do something. Oh no. My business model had broken. You see, I had made one small minor change and then everything felt catastrophic. I need to hire people for the business. I need to hire people to fulfill. I need to hire somebody to write proposals. My sales process is just carried around in my brain. Like, what am I going to do? Right? Like all of a sudden, the list that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast just starts churning through my brain. I'm waking up in the middle of the night thinking about the list. The list is just unending and unbearable. The last time I was incredibly overwhelmed and discouraged in my business, this time I wasn't discouraged. I was just real overwhelmed. I got some advice, which was, what would you tell your clients to do? And so I sat down 4 o'clock in the morning with my journal and I wrote the scenario down. And then I wrote down what I would tell my clients to do. And then I did it. And what that ended up looking like is I hired 2 employees and I created a careers page for On-Call COO to hire our fractional COOs and business operations managers. To date, we have added 3 more COOs to the team, and we're working through the business operations managers today. The team that went from 1 in April to 5 in May is now at 10 in October and will likely be 15 to 20 plus before the end of the year. Because what I said was the first thing I need to solve for is staffing capacity. And now that there is a solution in place for staffing capacity, the next thing that we're moving to is the sales process. Because that also now is at a volume where I can't manage it in my head anymore. I can't keep up. I can't do all of the things that I know to do. I can't be nuanced. It needs to be standardized and intentional and trackable and traceable and like all the things. So I went through that exact process that I laid out for you, and that the roof is on fire, have to do something now, the business is going to break, we can't do anything else unless we have staff. That problem got solved first. And now that solution is in place and there is a process to ensure we don't have that happen again, now we're moving to the second piece of the priority wheel, which is the sales process. And you know what? Eventually, probably sooner rather than later, I have to hire a salesperson. Just not there yet. So I know that I need to do that, but you know what I have to do before that? I have to write down the stinking process. I have to write scripts and approach and all this boring stuff that literally sits in my head because I own the business and I can do these things myself. And so I share this example with you because I want you to understand that like I have the lived experience too. I'm not speaking from an ivory tower. I get it because I'm living it. I'm side by side with you. The difference is that I know what to do about it. I know what to do when there's chaos and overwhelm bubbling, how to get objective quickly. And so the purpose of this podcast today was to help you get objective quickly. Now, of course, I can wrap this all in a bow and say, if this is the period of time that you're in, we can absolutely help you at On-Call COO because we do this amazingly well, which we do. But I wanted to make sure that you had the ability to do this on your own. If you're not in a place where you can hire a fractional COO yet, if you're not in a place where you can get the support that you need, the leadership thought and the perspective, that's okay. You can create that bubble for yourself. So listen to this podcast, follow the steps, pause it, do the work, turn it back on, do whatever you have to do. Every time you are in a moment of chaos, overwhelm, uncertainty in your business, come back to these points. They will help you decide what the next right move is and then how to move forward step by step. You will not eliminate the chaos. You will, though, improve that feeling of overwhelm and uncertainty because you'll have a plan. I know that you can do this because I'm actively doing it too. And I can tell you that momentary freak out that I had and the panic that I didn't have staff and oh my gosh, I had all these calls and I didn't know what to do, that passed within about 4 hours because that's all that it took was for me to sit down and say, you know what to do. Put pen to paper, get it figured out. That's the magic that can happen for you too when you follow this process. I hope this was helpful for you. If you know somebody that is in this stage in their business and they could really use this framework and these resources, please share this podcast with them. And the best way to support in general is to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment, give me some reviews, like all of the things. I do this completely because I want to ensure that those that are not yet ready to work with us at On Call COO have the resources that they need to move their needle forward. And so this is a labor of love. This is a passion project. And you doing those things for us, subscribing, reviewing, sharing with other people, helps us continue to do this great work. So until I see you again next time, friends, please know that you are wise, you are strong, and you are capable, and I believe in you.